Hello, and welcome to another episode of Goddess of Crypto. This is an incredibly volatile time in the market. Bitcoin has dropped significantly, over 25% in the last month, and it's expected to continue its turn downward. As a result, the altcoins have fallen as well, and the fear and greed index, did you know there was one of those, is at an 11, which means extreme fear and greed. And that's true of the stock market as well. People have lost 20 to 30% of their portfolios. We have seen such precipitous drops in stock that it looks like crypto sometimes.
The sacred divine feminine is creative, abundant, flowing, receiving, and disruptive. And the new energy of money, including cryptocurrency, decentralized finance, NFTs, and even the metaverse, is all these things too. Welcome to the Goddess of Crypto, a weekly show where women who are already in this powerful space will cover these topics simply, so you can relax into knowing that the future of finance is female.
Which turns out to kind of be true all the time. Like if you research, there are stocks dropping 80 to 90%. I've actually seen a picture of about 20 Wall Street stocks that have extreme volatility, but aren't crypto stocks, just regular Wall Street stocks. They have that kind of 90% drop. That's something people don't normally talk about. Just recently, Netflix experienced an enormous drop of 35%, losing a huge chunk of its value literally overnight. And the catalyst for that was they raised their rates a couple dollars a month, and they were saying they were going to crack down on shared passwords. So whether you're investing in the stock market, you're investing in the crypto market, or you're just sitting on the sidelines, it does look like we are headed for a bear market. I never knew what that meant until I started paying really close attention to money. A bear market is basically a market that's going down or is already close or at the bottom. A bull market is when the market is taking an upturn or is booming. Hey, the Bulls and the Bears are not just Chicago teams. It also applies to Wall Street and now to the crypto market as well. Yet there are people who will say right now, with Bitcoin at its biggest low in a year, they will say that they are bullish. In other words, they're buying and they're excited about Bitcoin, as an example. However, Bitcoin really is kind of the gold standard, so to speak, of crypto. It's the one I tend to use when I talk about a particular coin. It's also the one I feel the strongest is going to make a difference inside of this new energy of money long term. So that's another reason I like to talk about it. I am bullish on everything, and here's why. I've lived through the internet, the advent of the internet. I was forced to sell on a margin call. And a margin, for those of you that don't know, is when you basically borrow against the value of the stock so you can buy more. And when that value drops, especially very quickly, the company that loaned you the money makes a margin call, which means that overnight you're told, we have to liquidate some or all of your assets to cover the balance because the collateral is the stock itself that they gave you the money against and no longer has the value it had. Sometimes, like literally yesterday. And in the late 1990s, after stocks like Amazon, Apple, Starbucks came out, there was a lot of speculation on internet stocks, which at the time were untried. Now, I personally owned every single one of those three stocks I just mentioned, and I was building my portfolio using a tool that at the time I didn't really understand, and that was the margins, buying something on margin. And I really got pushed out of the market almost overnight. Now, the funny thing is, those stocks at the time were down between 80 and 90%. But over time, I mean, look at them now. They are the blue chip stocks, right? Apple, Amazon, Starbucks, especially Amazon. those stocks, people have made fortunes from them. And what seemed so high at the time was a fraction of what the stocks are valued today after splits and everything else. Mostly, the thing that's happened to those stocks over time is time itself. And that's what I want you to understand. If you look at any of what's going on in the crypto market in the short term, it's a bloodbath. If you look over the longer term, if you look back over the last 10 years, we are really just getting started. There's this wonderful graph that shows what the internet looked like as far as the adoption of the internet itself, what that adoption looked like in 1995. And there were about 14 million people online at that time. And over time, between then and today, it grew to being adopted by billions and billions of people, internet usage. So within a 25-year window, we went from 14 million people to something like 5 billion people who were on the internet. And most of that growth happened in the next decade after 1995. The big adoption was already in by the first decade. People were no longer saying the internet would die even after that first stock market crash in 2000. Before the recovery, people started seeing the internet's not going anywhere, and they started moving their typewriters off their desks and getting computers. If crypto adoption numbers continue to follow even remotely the same adoption rates as the internet, which I believe will happen, we will see that over the next decade, there are billions of people who are going to get involved with crypto. And this time, with this bear market, as the market drops so significantly, this time will look like just a blip. Because just like what happened in 2000, when the internet stock market crashed, there will be people to pick up the pieces who will acquire and move forward. Now, at that time, I had already been online, I think in 1995, I'd been online maybe around 6 months. I think I got into it at the beginning, like 94, 95 was when we all got on the internet. I'd had a computer on my desk by then for about 3 years. I was starting to code in HTML. I was making these crazy hyperlinks. Yes, a clickable link was once an innovation, once upon a time. So I was really a very early adopter. And what you see today is kind of the same thing. The early adopters are usually young people who have not been told it doesn't work that way. They got trained a different way. It's never going to work that way. And also who just in general, because this is true of a lot of people, don't like change. I feel like there's such an opportunity if you can simply learn to embrace change, for you to allow yourself to get up on the surfboard and begin to learn to surf before the new energy of money wave grows enough to become the tsunami that I see coming. And this dates back to the very first episode of Goddess of Crypto, where I talked about that tsunami and the download from what I call the Goddess of Crypto to show me that this is the way, that this is what's coming in our financial future. Now, don't take my word for it. Don't ever take anyone's word for anything. Get out there, do your own research, make your own decisions. That's what you're here for. I am simply here as a guide to share what I know and to share what I'm learning. For those of you that don't know, I'm based in Miami. So I get to go deal with the stuff and be in the swim. There's my water metaphor again, pretty much every single week. You know, I went to 4 conferences last month. I'll go to 2 this month. There are Bitcoin brunches here every single Sunday. I can go to practically everything every day and see what's happening. State of the art. And that's really exciting for me. I absolutely love it. I love being on the bleeding edge because that's where I cut my teeth and had my business originally back in the early days of the internet. And I can see so many similar patterns happening. The other thing I want to share with you that I think is just so important. Please learn from my mistake when I made it. Don't do what I did. Don't allow your fear and your lack of knowledge to get in your way. I have long forgiven myself for this. What I wish I had chosen to do was say, Oh, well, I didn't know how to use that tool properly. I didn't see the numbers coming. I didn't see how to exit, but now I'm going to learn. I'm going to choose to get more involved. I'm going to choose to learn more information, to pay more attention and study this stuff half an hour a day, 15 minutes a day on the potty if that's what it takes. But instead, I got so scared. I never even told anybody that I had those margin calls. I didn't tell anyone I'd been pulled out of the stock market, that the money I'd been putting in every few months for several years was gone. And it was because of fear, because I didn't feel like I had the right to invest, because I was somebody that had never trained with money. I didn't have a finance degree. I didn't have an MBA. And I remember back then, it was at the beginning of the internet. There was no YouTube. You couldn't go get a great resource unless you went and read a book. And those stock books were a little dry. So let's just say it wasn't really appealing. But there were people I could have asked. There were people that I could have found, asked to help guide me. I absolutely could have. My father would have been a great person to talk to since he'd been in the stock market at that point for probably 40 years. But I was afraid. I didn't feel comfortable asking for that kind of help. And to be really bottom line honest, I felt stupid. I felt like I should have known better, which I now know as a transformational mindset and wealth coach. I can tell you, oh my goodness, we all do this to ourselves all the time. We think I am stupid because I don't understand something, not I don't understand something because I never learned it, because they don't teach this stuff in school. And they still don't teach this stuff in school. We don't unless it's at a higher level education. Sure, they ought to be teaching this stuff to kids in kindergarten. They should be teaching children about compound interest when they are 5 years old. You know, I heard about it for the first time in a class when I was 15. It was like literally two paragraphs or something. And I remember thinking, well, that's going to take forever. Like, I don't have that long. Oh, what a mistake. But nobody explained it to me. Nobody explained from the standpoint of why I should care what's in it for me or how it could help me later. And the whole idea that somebody goes to you and says, oh, take 10 cents out of every dollar you make while you're a kid making $200 a week. It's your first job. Start putting it aside because you have nothing and it doesn't matter. And then as you make money going forward, you'll never miss it. And then you'll have an enormous nest egg. People don't tend to do that with their kids or their grandkids. Now, if you're hearing me and this makes sense to you, share this, please, with the little people you know. Change their lives early, because even if you didn't make that choice for yourself, you could still help a young person make it for themselves. The question is always, what's in it for me? That's what everybody wants to know. And I think educating yourself 15 minutes a day until you at least have enough comfort in your choices to be able to get into a market, it's not too much to ask. And we think, oh, out there in the world right now, out there, there's a bear market going on and I don't understand. And if the people who study this stuff, who know what they're doing and they're not making any money, how can I make any money? In my opinion, that's a mistake. I think that as women, we can be guided much better by our intuition. We can trust our intuition. I know women who invest entirely in stocks on their intuition. And look at me. I had no access to my intuition at the time. I would never have thought I had any. And yet, I bought three, knowing nothing of stocks, that are now considered the modern blue chip stocks, the ones you can really count on. I find that ironic and somehow wonderful. And after I got through the difficult period of telling myself how wrong I was, I realized all I did was keep myself from being in the market at a time when I could have made a lot of money. What I want you to know right now is don't be afraid, because your fear will keep you from learning. You don't have to invest in anything today. You don't. You don't have to jump in with both feet. I think there's going to be a bear market for a while. And I didn't sell before the bear market. I just held everything over the long term, hodling. Over time, I truly believe in the future of cryptocurrency. And as far as I'm concerned, it's just a physical transaction. It's going to go right back up again. It's going to go up significantly. And I'm not talking about in 6 months. You can day trade over a day, you can swing trade over periods of time. I would love to swing trade. I'm just busy running my business, and it seemed harder. So my choice is to buy weekly, no matter what the price, at least with Bitcoin. That's how I do it. It's called dollar cost averaging, in case you didn't know. Again, you do you. Do your own research before you get in at all. Just understand that time will cure most of this. Over time, markets usually go up, and this particular market, just like the internet, is being adopted over the next decade and 2 decades. And that's where we're going to see significant shifts. I hope this episode of Goddess of Crypto has been helpful to you. Please like, comment, and subscribe on your favorite platform. We are on 17 platforms and YouTube. I would love to have you share this with your mother, your best friend, your daughters, your grandmothers, all of the ones in your life. I want all of the women in the world to know about the new energy of money and to learn to surf the waves. I'll see you next time.
Every week, transformational wealth coach Halle Eavelyn leads a conversation that helps to ensure that women everywhere can learn to surf the coming tsunami of the new energy of money. You can find her at goddessofcrypto.me. That's goddessofcrypto.me. Be sure to subscribe to Goddess of Crypto on your favorite platform or watch the show on YouTube. And remember, wealth isn't just your privilege, it's your right.